Good evening, everyone. Over the next half hour, we will be speaking with business owners who've all had another nerve-wracking week. Many who made it through the pandemic found themselves dealing with protests. This half hour is designed for us to hear their stories and whether they're as optimistic as Wall Street. Speaking of, stocks surging today after the economy unexpectedly added 2.5 million jobs last month, raising hope that the economy is recovering. The Dow rising 829 points, the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq both adding more than 2% on the day. The Nasdaq hitting an all-time high intraday during the session before falling back a bit. For the week as a whole, it was a strong one. The Dow was up nearly 7%. The S&P just about 5%, and the Nasdaq up almost 3.5% there. And look at how far back we have come from the low point that we were in March. The three indexes are now all at least up 45% off those lows hit in March. Before we bring in tonight's business owners, I want to introduce my consultant this evening. David Dodson is a professor of management at Stanford Business School and an investor in several businesses. Professor Dodson, it's good to have you on board. Just quickly, are you sensing the optimism that we're seeing on Wall Street from the businesses you speak to and consult?
Well, not really, because on Wall Street, they can pull up on their computer and see whether their stocks are going up and down. But in the small business world, in the independent owners world, you have to see how many customers are coming in the door. And right now, people felt sort of like they got kind of kicked in the gut, because just about the time things were opening up and people were getting a little spring in their step, then, of course, George Floyd's murder really put a cloud over the country. And I think we're trying to get out of that cloud, but also recognizing that we have some issues that go way beyond COVID that we're going to have to deal with as well as a society.
Well, it's good to have you on board tonight. Let's talk to a few of those businesses. Our first one tonight, an early mover in the push to shop local. Thomas McIntyre is the co-founder at Made in KC. It's a popular retailer in Kansas City known for selling specialty items and apparel made by local vendors and artisans. Thomas, good to have you on board. The message from the jobs report today was that companies are adding jobs and hiring back people. Has that been your experience?
It has been thus far. So we had to close all of our locations when this started. And then once we opened back up on May 14th, we brought all of our hourly staff back. We had brought our salaried staff back before that. And so we're probably back to about 60 to 65% of our workforce. And I think as we expand hours over the next 30 to 60 days, we'll get closer to that 90% of our employees back on board.
Professor Dodson?
Yeah, I was thinking about your story, Thomas. I mean, you're the American dream in so many ways, because you were a CPA and sort of grinding through that life, but you had in your heart you wanted to be an entrepreneur and be your own business person. And you saw this opportunity that everybody else had missed, which is people wanted to buy things that were not just made in America, but made in Kansas City, and they were local. And what I'm wondering is, as you expanded and you grew store after store after store and customers kept coming back and buying your products, what has the last 100 days done to your risk profile and the way you're thinking about the future and how you're going to run the business?
Yes, we are a primarily brick and mortar company, and so this has hit us full on. We have an online channel, but primarily our sales come through people shopping in our stores. And so from that standpoint, it's been concerning. But we firmly believe that this is going to make even bigger shift to local, a shorter supply chain, knowing what you're buying from your neighbors. We believe is a very strong part of retail going forward. And we're very optimistic. We're very cautiously optimistic about the next 12 to 18 months. But we are as bullish on our concept as ever and are excited to move forward and support even people that have lost their jobs that have turned to making their own crafts that we can now support and sell in our stores.
Thomas, I just showed the stunning rally we've seen on Wall Street. And one of the threads, the narratives there, is that there's a lot of pent-up demand. And as states reopen, consumers will come back. What have you seen in terms of the consumer response?
So we, again, opened up on May 14th with all of our locations besides one, and it has been slow. There's not been one large event that's going to prove to be a catalyst that brings everyone back out to shopping, but we have a good customer base, and they are showing up, and they are buying from us. I think at this point, this past week in our stores, we've seen about 70% of what we would expect to see at this point in the year. Which is promising to us. There's still a lot of concerns, a lot of fear out there, and people are shopping. So it's not where it needs to be, but we are making really good progress, we think.
So are you as optimistic as Wall Street?
I would think in the short term, no. Long term, yes. I think that we've remained optimistic throughout this process. I don't think tomorrow or next week or even next month will be what we wanted it to be before all this started. But we have a very long-term view of our company and are very optimistic about what's to come.
Yeah, I've got a question for you. You know, you've got a concept that you've proven that's working, and people want to buy goods from Kansas City. At some point, I was thinking, you know, the next store is going to get incremental returns. Have you ever thought about those other 25 or 50 cities that are just like Kansas City that might want to buy local as well, and that might be a way that you could expand?
Certainly. Yeah, we have. We think that is one of our long-term strategies. We believe that there's a lot of work to do here in Kansas City and have a footprint that we've been trying to grow over the past 5 years. And we've talked to many cities, and people ask why we haven't done this in several cities. And we want to do it properly in this city first, and then potentially utilize partners or other avenues to make it work in other cities. And if we were to see it happening in other cities without our power, we'd be happy to see that. We believe in local. We believe in what it does for a community, and we are all for it. If others don't do it, I believe we will. But we want to make sure that we've done things properly here. And I think expansion like that is part of our future, but only when the timing is right.
Thomas, how is the experience different shopping right now during the pandemic? We just saw a map of Kansas City. We're still seeing cases rise. Testing is up, which is good, but hospitalizations are also increasing. So what sort of safety precautions do you take, and how's the whole experience different?
Yeah, we've been really proud of our approach thus far. We put a lot of thought into it. We put a lot of guidelines to it. We talked to all of our employees, made sure they felt safe first and foremost. If they didn't, they did not need to return to work. And then we did everything we could to make sure our customer felt safe. So we have plastic screens up. You'll see in some of these pictures in between our cashiers and our customer. We have face masks available for sale. We have all of our employees wearing face masks, hand sanitizer throughout every location we have. And primarily just making sure that everyone feels safe. We have reduced the amount of people that are allowed in our stores based on their square footage, and have stuck to that very strictly. And if any employee ever feels like they need to ask someone to leave, they're welcome to do so. In Kansas City, props to our mayor, props to our government here, has really done a good job of facilitating our ability to act the way we need to act to be a safe, functioning business.
Thomas, thank you for joining us. And I have to say, you have a fan here at CNBC, our reporter Leslie Picker, who's a Kansas City native, just writing in that she's wearing your T-shirt right now. Good luck with the reopening, and thank you.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Our next business is Worthmore Jewelers. It's based in Atlanta and Decatur, Georgia, a family operation specializing in one-of-a-kind pieces that attract a loyal following. Owner Harris Botnik joins us now. Harris, thank you for joining us. Big story today is that companies are hiring back workers as states have reopened. What's been your experience with employees?
So since the shutdown, we are all in. We're 20 of us employee-wise. So we chose not to furlough anybody. So personally, we have not had to rehire anybody. But looking at the numbers today on the news certainly are encouraging for everybody.
And looking at the market, was that encouraging to you? And is that the kind of optimism that jives with what you're seeing in your business?
Absolutely. We are a luxury business where we're not a necessary thing, although we have had a lot of people that have been coming in and saying, thank you so much. I'm so glad you're open. They needed some retail therapy to pull them out of this funk after being shut in their houses for so long. But definitely the market being up, the numbers, the employment numbers were just, I thought, startling compared to what the predictions were. It was really, really fantastic to see.
Professor?
Well, Harris, I mean, it's great to see that things are coming back and that you're feeling that optimism. And certainly what we saw in the stock market, it's nice that it's translating to your store and your customers. I've got a question for you, though. You applied for your PPP loan, and it took a couple of months to get there, and yet you kept all 20 employees. What was it as a leader that led you to decide that that was the right decision when everybody else was furloughing employees?
We've been very fortunate. We've been in business going on 27 years now, and much of that time we've had our same crew, and our crew is constantly there for us. They're constantly there for our customers. And as a small business, we knew long ago that we understood the jewelry business, but without the right people in our stores to take care of our customers, you can't do business no matter what you're in. So it was very important for us to be able to step up for our employees to show them, you're there for us year round. We want you to also know that we're there for you. All the hard work that you do, all the nonstop days, all the overtime that you put in for your clients, we just didn't feel right furloughing them. I think financially, everybody else in my industry that I talked to, it made sense financially to let them go and put them on unemployment. But just as a family decision, and we consider our crew our family, we didn't feel good about making that decision.
Well, it might end up being a great long-term decision because I can't imagine the level of loyalty that you built with those 20 people by keeping them on during this time. You know, there's sort of a saying that when things get difficult and the water level comes down, you sort of see the rocks. I'm wondering, as a business person, what has happened over the last 150 days that you've discovered as a business person that's made you a better business person that might in the long term work out well for you and your family and your company?
I think that's an awesome point because we first saw it in 2008. That's when we opened our second location, which in 2007 seemed like a fantastic idea. The economy was booming. Everything was strong. 2008 hit. We opened our second location in May. Everything by then have come to a quick stop as far as the economy was. So what I thought, though, for us personally, what that did is it made us better business people once again. It made us really, really crack down. We'd been in business at that time for 15 years. So just like this time, it gave us time to reflect, what can we do out of the box? How can we improve? How can we stay top of mind? How can we show customers and our clients that the small business really is where it's at? There are so many advantages, keeping money in your community, being able to support your community by us staying in business. We're able to give back to the community, obviously. So it just helps. I think you have to step back. You have to look at everything in your business and see, where can I improve? And I think that the people will come out stronger who are able to make it through. Not everybody's going to make it through, but the people who are, we are going to come out stronger.
Well, I was thinking about, so much of your business is also the repair business, and that brings people in. And even if there's a little bit of a slow recovery in terms of buying luxury goods, I was just wondering about the opportunity to really press the repair business so that you keep that connective tissue with your customers, so that when they have disposable income and they have the confidence to spend, you still have that connection with the customers. I was wondering if, to what extent you can press the repair business.
Yeah, it's definitely something that we can go after. And we do have some lines that we use for basic print ads or online ads at this point, or somebody yanked your chain and we show a picture of a broken chain. It's just sort of in your face. It expresses what we're about. But we have two fantastic in-house jewelry repair people. And jewelry repair is an important part of our business, not only because it brings people in on a regular basis, but even on times like this where somebody might not be buying the new piece of jewelry or as big of a new piece of jewelry, it gives them a time to go through their jewelry box. And I can't tell you how many calls I've gotten because everybody is cleaning out things at home and found all this jewelry that they no longer wear and they want to restyle it, or they found things that they want to repair that have just been sitting aside that they didn't have time to deal with. So I think that is a great step forward for people to sort of ease their way back into things, to feel good. It's something they already have. They're repurposing it and putting it to new use.
Harris, it's good to hear that things are coming back to normal. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much.
Owner of Worthmore Jewelers in Atlanta. Next up, the path forward for the owner of a limo business. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Let's bring in our next business owner tonight. Not only did the pandemic cost her business, now the protests have forced the cancellation of her first booking since starting her path forward. Maria Priestley is the owner of Empress Elite Limousine in Atlanta, Georgia. Thanks for joining us tonight, Maria. Tell us what the last few days and weeks have been like for you.
Well, thanks for having me. The last few weeks and let's say the last few months have been pretty challenging for all of us in our industry, anywhere from small operators to large operators. We're facing a lot of different challenges right now. Initially with COVID-19, and now, like you mentioned, we're getting an impact as well from the protests in Atlanta and everywhere across the U.S.
The big story today, Maria, was that companies are starting to hire people back as economies like Georgia's reopen. What's happened to your drivers and your employees?
Well, I think every industry is going to be different. There's going to be some stages for us to come back. Unfortunately, I think that we're going to be one of the industries that is going to take the longest to recover. With travel being restricted, corporate America is not allowing the travel just yet. A lot of weddings, a lot of events, a lot of different things have been canceled, big events that were happening in Atlanta this year. We just missed a wonderful prom season, which is what we look for every year. And we have the Final Four, the Masters, a lot of different things. So hiring employees right now for the volume that we are getting, it's not feasible because we are literally less than 10%, some operators 5% below our normal operating. So it's bringing people back. It's going to take us longer than any other industry.
You know, Maria, we've seen the market rebound so strongly with stocks climbing back more than 40% from their lows in March. The mood is better and it's excited about the reopening. It sounds like that's not where you are. How would you describe your level of optimism right now?
Listen, among all the things that are happening, we always got to keep our hopes up, and we see things moving, which that's a good sign. I think that with the stock market the past few days, you can see the trend of people want to get out, people want to travel. We do see the light at the end of the tunnel. I think that recovering for these past few months is going to be difficult for some more than others. We do see the light at the end of the tunnel, but I think that this year it's going to be difficult to see anything bigger than what we were projecting. So it's going to be slow. It's coming back. Wish we was faster than this and sooner than later. And now that we were getting through all these stages, the market showing up and trending up, then now we're dealing with a different problem, a different situation with the protests.
Well, you know, Maria, don't forget that even though business is down so low, that you've created some pretty substantial value in the fact that you know how to run a limousine business. I mean, you spent 19 years in the corporate world. You figured out how to run a limousine business. It seems to me that if you can do everything you can to maintain that connection with those employees so that you can bring them back and somehow keep those cars ready to go, when things come, you know, business is going to come back fast for a business like yours, and people are going to call it. I think a lot of your competitors may be in a situation where they're not going to be able to service the clients. So if there's anything that you can do to make sure that you're ready and they know you're ready to roll with your limousines and your chauffeurs, to me, that seems like that'll be the key to you getting back to business.
Yes, Dave. And I think that you mentioned being in the corporate work helped me a lot, to prepare me a lot to be able to do a lot of things that I do today with my business. Keeping in touch with our employees definitely is something that we're doing, and we're promoting within our industry with all the other owners in our industry.
You're having to do it with pure
our
grit
businesses
because
right
you don't
now
have a PPP loan.
Yeah, I don't have the PPP loan, but we're getting leaner in the back end. Right. So, yes, there's no business, but there's a lot of opportunity to make our business leaner and stronger. So when that business comes back, because it's going to come back, we're going to be so ready to take on everything and more that we were able to handle before. So it's also a lot of positive things in that regard. Our industry, it goes a million miles per hour, and now we're having the time to focus and streamline our processes and make it leaner than ever. so we can provide a much better service and be ready for when it comes back, because it's coming back.
Maria, we wish you the best of luck. Keep us posted. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Maria Priestley.
Thank you.
And thank you to Professor Dodson and all of our business owners tonight for joining us and telling their stories.